Good morning. How are you doing? Just finishing my coffee, and thought I'd have a chat. I was just reading some bits and bobs, like you do of a morning, and one of those situations where things kind of that were just some things were stacking up, um, some connections. Um, I don't know whether this is just kind of part of how the social media internet world works. I'm sure it is, and all of the things in my Readwise this morning. I use a thing called Readwise, which just collects together all of your highlights from your Kindle, and it can do the internet and stuff as well. I just largely use it to pull together all the Kindle highlights, and it gives you some suggestions for other things as well. And I'm sure it kind of figures out what the connections are from something else, because it seems to give not all of them. It gives you 6 every day, and not all of the ones it gives you every day are kind of connected, but some of them usually are. But, well, see, I've just figured it out, I suppose, because it's given me what I'm interested in, isn't it? But that said, there's lots of stuff in there on a range of things where I've highlighted stuff, and it tends to make connections anyway, or I'm making the connections. That could be it, couldn't it? Not sure. Anyway, enough of this whittering on. So so I was just thinking about go carefully into the world, and this is a constant source of contemplation, philosophical contemplation for me, because I think we're getting philosophical. We have this idea that we're free agents, don't we? Going about our business, doing whatever we want. We do whatever we want, and that's rubbish. We don't do whatever we want. We are manipulated into ways of behaving. I don't know, stereotypes, cultural norms, societal norms, through advertising, through the great capitalist experiment, which has now won the day, and we are shepherded into kind of ways of thinking, and the irony of the fact that I'm talking on YouTube here and that I then share this on social media isn't lost when I say this, but the kind of the main way we get our information these days is through the media of the internet, isn't it? And a lot of it through social media, even if it's legitimate sources, even if it's kind of links to newspaper articles with all their flaws or whatever, or even links to people who you trust because of their pedigree and their status and that kind of thing, or because you know them personally. I really enjoy that about social media. I can be reading something by a journalist or a writer who I don't really know, and then I can be reading something about who I've got a personal connection with, and listening to their thoughts or reading their thoughts. Really good. I mean, that's the benefit of the internet, isn't it? But I think this is what I mean. Go carefully into the world. Go carefully into the world is important, because if we don't, we just start to accept what we're being told as a matter of course, without carefully checking it out. And I think this is important. Why am I talking about this and the self-care shorts thing? Well, because you know, don't you? I know you know, and I know that when it comes to your physical well-being, what you put in terms of your nutrition equates to some degree or has some influence on what you then get out. You drink lots of water, you're hydrated. You drink lots of alcohol, you get drunk and fall over. Do you know what I mean? You put something in, you get a result, don't you? Well, and this links to what I'm going to say. You initiate a behavior, and there's a consequence to that behavior. Kind of links to what I'm going to say. Behaviorism. I'm going to come to behaviorism. So we know that. So if your food input or fluid input is a particular thing, you get a particular thing back as a consequence of that. So obviously, if what you're putting into your mind, into your brain, is a particular type of thing, then you get a particular thing out, don't you? And there's an argument to be made that that a lot of what we see on television and see in social media is a deliberate form of manipulation. Now, I'm not a big conspiracy theorist. Don't think that I'm saying that. No, I'm not at all. I'm not saying, I don't know. I mean, there might be, who knows? I'm not into that. I'm not into that. But I think it's much more pragmatic and practical than that, and it's rooted in money. What we see on the TV in terms of advertising and in terms of programming, for example, is deliberately intended to influence us in some way. In fact, I was reading a book a while back. I can't even remember which one it was, about capitalism. That said the drive of capitalism is to keep us unsatisfied. Capitalism must keep us unsatisfied so that capitalism can then sell us things. Yeah. So if we were happy with everything, if we were happy with the car we had and the washing machine and the house, and if we were happy with all of those things, then we wouldn't strive. We wouldn't bother working, maybe, or we'd work less, or we'd certainly buy less. If you're happy with the car you've got, for example, happy with the clothes you wear and those kind of things, then you would buy less, wouldn't you? And that doesn't fuel capitalism. What fuels capitalism is unhappiness with our car, with our clothes, with the experiences we engage in. It's like I was going to Pure Gym. You might remember that. Was I talking about that? I've moved back to the local authority gym because it's been refurbished and it's reopened. And because I'd rather give my money to the local authority than give it to private enterprise. And they've replaced all of their machines and everything. Now, the other machines were getting a bit old. They get a lot of use, don't they, in a gym? The rowing machines on the go kind of all day long, and the bikes and stuff. But they've got all of these features on. You can connect it to your phone, and you can track your rhythm. So when you're on the weights, you pull and push at the right speed and all that kind of thing. And I did that the first few times I went. It was really interesting. It was really good. I kind of enjoyed it to an extent. But then you kind of think, well, shifting the weight's the thing. Not watching the little dot go up and down on the screen. And I can go cycling in there on a machine and compete against people and watch stuff. And ultimately, these are all just gimmicks to sell us things, because ultimately, I reckon, for the most part, we ultimately switch them off, because I'd much rather go outside on my bike, or I'd much rather just sit on the bike and get on with it. You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe it's just not my thing. I don't know. But I think they needed to sell new equipment to gyms, so they enhance it in some way by making us unhappy. Oh, this is much better because it tracks this or it does that. Really, do you know what I mean? The classic weight training thing is a couple of dumbbells or a barbell. The thing that's been around for years. Well, that's no good because they've sold us all them things. We've got all them things. Now we need to sell more stuff. Anyway, that was just an aside about how I think it works. So it's premised on making us unhappy. And anyway, that's why it links to self-care, because if we buy into this, we have to have the new gadget or the new fad, or we have to be frequently replacing our kitchens and our sofas and our, and all that kind of stuff, rather than wait until they're just not functional anymore. Obviously, you replace things when they're not functional, built-in obsolescence, there's another thing. Things are deliberately made to have a short shelf life. They're deliberately made now so they can't be repaired. Think your iPhone, all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? They're deliberately made so they're difficult to repair. Or that if you need to repair it, you might as well just buy a new one. I've had that many times with washing machines and the like, where the guy comes out and he looks and he goes, yeah, you need to replace the board, but actually the board's 250 quid, 300 quid, I don't know, whatever. You might as well buy a new one. That's a bit of a shame, because now all this is going to landfill. But anyway, I digress. I don't actually. It's all connected. This is why going carefully into the world is really, really important, because what we consume through our mouths and through our brains is really important. B.F. Skinner, Burrhus Frederick Skinner. You'll have come across him if you've done any psychology over the years. American psychologist, forefather of behaviorism. There's a stimulus and there's a response, and we can control that. He'd suggest by having the same stimulus, or Pavlov's dog, same stimulus over again, creates a response eventually. And Skinner was a major player, died in 1990. And Skinner was a major player in the early kind of digital networking kind of thing. And he saw digital networks as an ideal way to train, kind of his words, not his words, but his paraphrase words, an ideal way to train a population for the kind of utopia that he sought, and he did. I've got a book actually. What was that book called again? That he wrote about this utopian world, on the shelf somewhere. This utopian world that he wanted to create. Can't see it. So yeah, I'm back to the old problem of not being able to see where any of my books are since we moved. Can't find them anymore. Anyway, it's up there somewhere. I'll remember what it's called. Anyway, he wrote this book about this utopian world that he thought he'd create, where everything was controlled and what have you. So he sees digital networks as a way of training a population to a point where we finally just behave in ways that benefit, in whose eyes? Society. In fact, one of his books is called Beyond Freedom and Dignity. Beyond freedom and dignity. So what is it beyond that? What's the next thing? Control. And one of the things that again, this is just stuff that's popped up this morning, all links you see. And there was something from Descartes popped up as well. And I really love this. I'm going to read this because this is a direct quote from one of René Descartes' work in his collected works. The greatest minds, as they are capable of the highest excellences, are open likewise to the greatest aberrations. And those who travel very slowly may yet make far greater progress, provided they keep always to the straight road, than those who, while they run, forsake the straight road. And for me, and for many, the straight road is an understanding of self, an understanding of what is important to you as an individual, without any influence from any external factors. Going inside and understanding what's important for you. So people that run social media all the time, doom scrolling, they forsake the straight road. They forsake the reflection, the consideration, the considered life, the analyzed life, that kind of thing. And what happens is those people engage in the greatest aberrations, to use Descartes' work, rather than the highest excellences. See, this is something that I joke about all the time. When I see some ridiculous new thing, some ridiculous new fad, or I'm sounding very judgmental now. People dressed in ridiculous clothing or whatever, or doing ridiculous things or whatever. I can't bring an example to mind now, and probably best that I don't. But I say all the time, I don't blame the person for buying that. Blame the person that made it in the first place. That should never have been a thing. But make it, sell it. That's what happens, isn't it? You know what I mean? So bringing this round to self-care. I never know whether I'm pronouncing the guy's name right. In the book How to Be Stoic, Massimo Pigliucci, Pigliucci. The point of life for human beings is to use our reason, not to be just sucked in, to use our reason, our critical faculties, our critical reasoning, our critical function, our criticality, to build the best society, and I'd argue the best person you can be, that is humanly possible to build. Now, I'm going to make an argument that we haven't built the best society that is possible to build. People are going to food banks. People aren't getting their health taken care of. People are eating massively high calorie food that is nutritionally like problematic, full of chemicals, full of this kind of stuff. That's the world we've created, not a one where people are eating carrots and potatoes and that kind of thing. We've created intense farming. We've just created a society, we haven't created the best society that is humanly possible unless you buy into the myth, unless you buy into the myth of have more, consume more, experience more, experience less, you know, just eat well, um, less processed stuff, all those kind of things that that we know have a negative impact on our well-being. Processed food or highly processed food anyway, um, has a hugely negative impact on our well-being, on our physical well-being. Consuming experience after experience without engaging truly in those experiences, consuming product time and time again has a highly negative impact on our mental health because of that halo effect. You get it, and you love it, and it's the best thing that's ever happened. Then it isn't. It's just a thing. And the world is engineered to be like that. I believe, firmly believe that. Not in a conspiratorial way, but just in a kind of people at the top want to make money out of the people at the bottom, those guys. Nietzsche said, become who you are. Become who you are. That requires you to find out who you are and then consider the sort of person that you want to be. And in there lies the most important nugget of self-care. You must create a internal structure and a life that fits with values, your values, not the values imposed on you by other people, other organizations. So go carefully into the world, or you will become of the world. I'm always taken back when I say that to something that when I used to go to church as a younger man, when people talked about Christianity and maybe other faiths, and it really resonates with me still, is be in the world but not of the world. I have to go to work every day. I have to go to work every day, and I have to pay the bills, and I have to shop a little, and I have to do those things because I live in this country, in this capitalist structure, capitalist consumerist culture. But I can choose the bits that I do, and I can choose how I do them. So I do the kind of least harm, if you like. So be in the world, but not of the world. I don't have to overconsume. I have to consume. I have to eat. There are things that I need. I need to get to places. Those kind of things. I need to wear clothes. All that kind of stuff. So I have to have some of those things. But I don't need to overconsume. I don't need to have more than I need. And I do have more than I need. And I think I try very hard not to have more than I need. But I do have more than I need. So be in the world, but not of the world. And all of that kind of stacks up somehow and gets us to that point, I believe. Anyway, game over for the day. The whole point of self-care shorts was the shorts bit, and I used to try and keep these to 10 minutes, and now they're drifting into 15 and nearly 20 minutes. Nearly 20 minutes here, but there you go. It's nice to talk. It's nice to talk to you, even though doing it like this. It's nice to say these things and hope that they help somewhere down the line. That's my desire. Anyway, take care, and see you next time I appear here.